Have you wondered why negative thoughts seem to arrive uninvited, louder than the positive ones, and harder to silence? It is because your mind is the greatest battlefield you will ever face. Unless you take control of it, it will take control of you. This is why what you are about to hear is so important, because your life can only rise to the level of your thoughts. If you stay with me until the end, you will not only learn how to silence the voices of doubt, fear, and insecurity, but you will also discover how to reprogram your mind for clarity, confidence, and peace. The mind as a garden is one of the most powerful ways to understand how thoughts shape life. Every idea, belief, or imagination that passes through your mind is a seed. And just like in a garden, whatever is planted will eventually grow. If you are intentional and plant seeds of positivity, confidence, discipline, and hope, your mind will blossom into a place of clarity and strength. But if you neglect it and allow fear, doubt, worry, or anger to take root, weeds will quickly spread and choke the life out of the good that could have flourished. The truth is that a garden never stays empty. Soil will always grow something, whether useful plants or destructive weeds. The same is true with the mind. Every day, you are sowing seeds through what you think, what you listen to, what you watch, and who you surround yourself with. A careless word spoken to yourself like, "I'll never be enough," is a seed. A daily thought, "I have what it takes," is also a seed. Over time, seeds grow into patterns, patterns grow into habits, and habits form the landscape of your entire life. This is why two people in the same situation can live entirely different lives. One planted thoughts of fear, while the other planted thoughts of faith. The difference is not in the soil, but in the seeds. By nature, don't need permission to grow. You don't wake up in the morning planning to think negatively, but somehow those thoughts creep in. That's because the mind, if left unattended, defaults to weeds. Fearful thoughts, discouraging memories, or feelings of inadequacy find their way into the mind naturally. Just as a gardener must pull weeds regularly, you must train yourself to notice and uproot negative thoughts before they spread. If you ignore them, they will multiply, taking more space until your mind is overcrowded with doubt and hopelessness. Planting good seeds requires intentional effort. You don't get a harvest of peace and confidence by accident. It comes from choosing every day to feed your mind with things that align with growth, reading words that inspire, speaking affirmations of strength, surrounding yourself with people who lift you higher. These are ways of sowing good seed. It may seem small at first, like planting a tiny seed in the ground. But over time, with consistency, that seed grows into a strong tree that cannot be easily uprooted. The condition of your garden also depends on what you allow through the gates. If you constantly expose yourself to negativity, whether it's through the media you consume, the voices you listen to, or the company you keep, you are allowing weeds to be scattered into your soil. But if you guard your gates and filter what enters, you preserve the health of your inner garden. A good gardener knows that prevention is easier than cure. Likewise, it is easier to block negativity from entering your mind than to uproot it once it has grown deep roots. It is also important to water the seeds you want to grow. Just planting them once is not enough. You have to nurture them daily with repetition. If you want confidence, keep speaking words of confidence. If you want peace, practice gratitude until it becomes natural. If you want discipline, remind yourself of your goals and act in alignment with them. Over time, these repeated acts water the seeds and make them grow stronger than the weeds. The beauty of the garden of the mind is that transformation is always possible. Even if weeds have taken over for years, with patience and consistent care, you can restore it. Uprooting negativity, planting positivity, and nurturing good habits will eventually reshape your inner landscape. And as the inner garden changes, so will your outer life. Healthy, thriving mind produces a healthy, thriving life. So treat your thoughts carefully. Every word, every idea, every image you dwell on is a seed. Ask yourself daily, what am I planting today? Because sooner or later, you will live in the garden you created in your mind. Awareness is the first step, because you cannot remove what you do not recognize. Many people live trapped in cycles of negativity, self-doubt, and fear without even realizing that these destructive patterns are rooted in their own thoughts. The mind is powerful, but it is also subtle. Thoughts flow in and out constantly, and if you are not alert, toxic ones slip in quietly and begin to shape your beliefs, your mood, and ultimately your decisions. Awareness is like turning on the light in a dark room. The moment you see clearly, you recognize what has been there all along. Without awareness, negativity hides in sight, disguising itself as truth, when in reality is nothing more than a lie you've accepted for too long. Awareness is not about judgment, it is about observation. The first step toward mental freedom is learning to pause and notice what is going on inside your head. Ask yourself, what am I thinking right now? Why am I thinking this? Is this thought helping me or hurting me? When you develop the habit of questioning your thoughts, you begin to separate yourself from them. Instead of being controlled by them, you step into the position of control. For example, a person might have a thought like, I always fail. If they never question it, they will accept it as their identity. But when they become aware, they realize it is just a thought, not a truth. And from that recognition comes the power to challenge and change it. Awareness also exposes patterns. Negative thinking rarely shows up once. It repeats itself in cycles until it becomes a belief. By paying attention, you can identify recurring thoughts that consistently drain your energy, thoughts of unworthiness, fear of rejection, expectations of failure. These patterns are like hidden weeds that keep reappearing in the garden of your mind. Once you recognize the pattern, you can address the root instead of constantly fighting the surface symptoms. Without awareness, you would never know that the same toxic script is running on repeat in your mind. The power of awareness is that it transforms automatic reactions into conscious choices. Before awareness, you may feel anxious without knowing why, or angry without seeing the thought that triggered it. Once you notice, you can trace the emotion back to the thought. For instance, if you feel anxious before speaking up in a meeting, awareness may reveal the underlying thought. Everyone will laugh at me if I make a mistake. With that recognition, you can challenge the thought, replace it with a healthier one, and reduce the anxiety. The situation itself didn't change, but awareness shifted your relationship to it. Developing awareness requires practice. It often begins with mindfulness, taking a few moments each day to slow down, breathe, and observe what is happening in your mind. Writing your thoughts in a journal can also reveal patterns you didn't see before. Sometimes the simple act of putting a thought on paper makes you realize how irrational or unhelpful it really is. Over time, this practice trains you to catch negative thoughts faster, before they grow stronger. Another key part of awareness is honesty. Many people avoid facing their negative thoughts because it is uncomfortable. It is easier to distract yourself than to sit with a painful belief like, I'm not enough. But avoiding awareness does not erase the thought. It only allows it to grow in silence. True growth requires courage to confront the lies you've been carrying, even when it hurts. Awareness is not always pleasant, but it is always liberating. Once you see the poison, you can begin to detoxify your mind. The beauty of awareness is that it creates space for change. The moment you recognize a toxic thought, you weaken its grip. You realize you are not the thought, you are the thinker. That shift alone opens the door to freedom. Without awareness, negativity rules unchecked. With awareness, you begin the process of replacing lies with truth, weakness with strength, and fear with confidence. So never underestimate the power of the first step. Lasting transformation does not begin with action on the outside. It begins with awareness on the inside. Pay attention to the voice in your head. Challenge it when it speaks defeat, and refuse to accept thoughts that rob you of peace and purpose. Awareness is the light that exposes darkness, and once darkness is exposed, it loses its power. Replacing, not just removing, is the true key to transforming the mind. Many people make the mistake of believing that the solution to negativity is simply to stop thinking negative thoughts. They try to resist them, push them away, or suppress them, but soon they find the same thoughts creeping back even stronger. This happens because the mind cannot remain empty. Just like nature outpours a vacuum, your mind will always fill itself with something. If you pull out the weeds but never plant flowers, weeds will grow back on their own. The same is true for your inner world. If you only attempt to remove negative thoughts without deliberately replacing them with positive, empowering ones, the old patterns will return and reclaim the empty space. Think of like clearing out a room. If you sweep away the dust, but never move in new furniture, the room will not stay clean for long. Dust will gather again, and the emptiness will invite disorder. In your mind, the dust is negativity, and the furniture is the empowering thoughts you consciously choose to occupy the space. For every toxic thought you remove, you must install a new truth that aligns with growth, confidence, and purpose. Otherwise, the old voice of doubt will echo in the emptiness and re-establish control. For example, if you struggle with the thought, "I am not good enough," it is not enough to simply say, "Stop thinking that." The void it leaves will soon be filled with the same insecurity. Instead, you must replace it with affirmations like, "I am growing, I am capable, I am worthy of progress." At first it may feel unnatural, almost forced, but repetition strengthens belief. Over time, the new thought takes root and the old one weakens until it loses its hold. You cannot erase a thought by willpower alone. You override it by planting something better in its place. This principle applies in every area of life. Someone who wants to stop being fearful must not only reject fear, but replace it with courage. Instead of saying, "I won't be afraid," they must tell themselves, "I am strong enough to face this challenge." Someone who wants to stop dwelling on failure must not only silence the memory, but replace it with hope by saying, "I have learned, my next step will be better." The shift happens when removal is followed by replacement, because it creates a new foundation to build on. Replacing also protects against relapse into old habits. Negative thinking is often to years of repetition. So when you remove it, the brain craves the familiar pattern. If you do not replace it with a new pathway, the brain will default back to what it knows best, the old negativity. But when you give it a new thought to focus on, you redirect the energy into healthier patterns. This is how new habits of thought are created, by not only rejecting the old, but embracing the new. Practical steps can help this process. One method is conscious affirmation, speaking empowering truths daily, even before you fully believe them. Another is visualization, picturing yourself living in the mindset you want to create. Gratitude is also powerful. It shifts focus from what is lacking to what is present, replacing emptiness with abundance, and surrounding yourself with positive influences. Books, voices, communities, provides reinforcement so the new seeds grow strong enough to resist the old weeds. The truth is that your mind is never idle. It is either working against you or working for you, depending on what you plant in it. Simply removing negative thoughts is like fighting an endless battle with no strategy. But replacing them with empowering ones is like building a fortress, making it harder for negativity to take back territory. Each replacement is a brick in the foundation of a renewed mind. So do not settle for temporary relief by only trying to silence the wrong voices. Fill your mind with the right voices. Replace lies with truth, fear with faith, discouragement with determination. When you consciously choose what to think, you no longer leave space for negativity to return. Emptiness invites the old patterns back, but a renewed mind, filled with empowering thoughts, creates a life that negativity cannot reclaim. Guarding the gates of the mind is one of the most critical disciplines you can develop, because what you allow to enter through your eyes, ears, and associations will eventually shape your thoughts, your mood, and your destiny. The mind does not operate in isolation. It is constantly absorbing information, processing experiences, and storing impressions. Every image you watch, every word you listen to, and every person you allow close to you is like a visitor entering the gates of a city. If you do not guard the gates, enemies disguised as entertainment, gossip, or unhealthy influence will sneak in and begin to poison your inner world. What you feed your mind today becomes the harvest of your life tomorrow. What you see has a powerful effect on your thoughts. Images are seeds planted in the imagination, and once they are rooted, they grow into desires, attitudes, and expectations. If you constantly watch content filled with violence, fear, or hopelessness, you cannot expect your mind to be calm and positive. Your thoughts will begin to mirror the darkness you have allowed in. On the other hand, when you expose your eyes to uplifting, inspiring, and purposeful content, your mind begins to reflect that same energy. Just as the body becomes what it eats, the mind becomes what it sees. This is why it is vital to choose carefully what you consume visually, because your eyes are the front gate to your inner landscape. The same principle applies to what you hear. Words are vibrations that carry meaning, and once they enter the ear, they settle in the mind and heart. Negative words, whether from music, conversations, or constant complaining, will drain your spirit and reinforce toxic thinking. If you surround yourself with voices that tell you, you can't do it, life is hopeless, people can't be trusted, those words become your inner dialogue. But if you choose to listen to voices of encouragement, wisdom, and vision, you are planting seeds of growth. This is why mentors, motivational content, and uplifting conversations are so important. They fortify the walls of your mind against the noise of discouragement. Guarding the gates also means being intentional about the people you allow into your circle. Relationships are like environments. You absorb them without realizing it. Spend too much time around negative, bitter, or cynical people, and their mindset will begin to rub off on you. You will start to see the world through their limitations. But when you walk with people who believe in growth, discipline, and purpose, their energy lifts you higher and pushes you forward. The old saying is true: you become like the company you keep. Guarding the gates means setting boundaries, limiting exposure to toxic influences, and choosing companions who align with the future you are building, not the fears you are leaving behind. The danger of unguarded gates is that negativity rarely announces itself loudly. It often slips in quietly, disguised as harmless entertainment, casual conversations, or innocent distractions. One negative image, one destructive lyric, one careless voice may not seem dangerous in isolation, but repeated over time, they build a culture of thought inside you. Before long, you find yourself doubting more, fearing more, and expecting less from life, without even realizing that it was the open gates that invited these intruders. Guarding mind requires vigilance and discipline. It is not about living in fear or isolation, but about making conscious choices every day. Ask yourself, does what I am watching, listening to, or engaging with align with the person I want to become? Does this fuel my strength or drain it? Does this build hope or plant fear? By filtering what enters, you protect your mental environment and give your positive seeds the space they need to grow. The truth is that your mind is a treasure, and treasures are always guarded. No one leaves precious jewels exposed to thieves. They are locked away, protected, and watched carefully. Your thoughts are more valuable than gold because they shape your entire life. If you allow anything and anyone to pass through your gates without caution, you risk losing your peace and your direction. But if you guard those gates with wisdom, discipline, and clarity, you create a safe environment for growth, creativity, and strength. So be intentional. Choose what you see. Choose what you hear. Choose who you walk with. Every choice is a seed, every influence a visitor, every moment an opportunity to either strengthen your mind or weaken it. Guard your gates well, because your future depends on what you allow to enter today. The power of consistency is one of the most underestimated forces in life. People often look for dramatic breakthroughs, sudden changes, or quick fixes to remove negativity and transform their lives. But real, lasting transformation does not come from one grand action. It comes from small, daily disciplines practiced over time. Just as a drop of water falling on a stone eventually leaves its mark, repeated actions in your thinking gradually reshape the patterns of your mind. Consistency, not intensity, is what breaks old cycles and builds a new way of living. When you first try to change your thoughts, it feels difficult. Negative thinking has often been rehearsed for years, becoming a habit so natural you hardly notice it. You may try a positive affirmation once and feel it has no effect. You may practice gratitude for a day and find that your worries still return. This is where most people quit. They expect immediate results. But consistency understands that every small effort is not wasted. It is building momentum, even if the results are not yet visible. A single workout does not transform your body, but daily exercise over months does. In the same way, consistent positive thinking trains the mind until it naturally rejects negativity and leans towards strength. Old cycles are like grooves in the brain, carved by years of repetition. If you have always told yourself, "I can't," that thought has worn a path in your mind. Walking away from it once is not enough. Your brain will try to pull you back to the familiar groove. But every time you replace "I can't" with "I can try," you begin to carve a new path. At first, it is small, barely noticeable. But with daily repetition, the new path grows deeper and the old one fades. This is the science of habit. Neurons that fire together wire together. Consistency rewires your brain, breaking the old cycle and creating a new one. The beauty of small disciplines is that they are achievable. You do not have to change everything in one day. You only need to take one step daily in the right direction. Consistency in gratitude could mean writing down 3 things each morning you are thankful for. Consistency in positive thinking could mean replacing one negative statement a day with a positive one. Consistency in focus could mean setting aside 10 minutes to read or listen to something uplifting. These small disciplines seem insignificant, but compounded over time, they create massive change. Just as a seed planted and watered daily becomes a tree, your daily mental practices become the foundation of a renewed mind. Consistency also builds trust with yourself. Each time you follow through on a small discipline, you prove to yourself that you are capable of change. Over time, this strengthens your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone controlled by negativity, but as someone who is disciplined, resilient, and growing. This internal trust fuels further consistency, creating a cycle of progress. Where once you were trapped in destructive cycles of doubt or fear, now you live in constructive cycles of discipline and strength. Another power of consistency is that it works silently. You may not notice the change happening day by day, but over weeks and months, the difference becomes undeniable. People around you begin to see that you are calmer, more focused, and more hopeful. Your choices improve, your outlook brightens, and your opportunities expand. What once seemed impossible becomes natural because you have trained your mind step by step. Consistency is not glamorous, but it is powerful. It does not require talent, wealth, or connections. It only requires discipline to repeat the right actions daily, even when you don't feel like it. This persistence breaks the grip of old cycles and builds new ones that last. Transformation is not about sudden sparks. It is about steady flames that burn day after day. So never despise the small things. Every positive thought repeated, every act of gratitude practiced, every disciplined choice made adds up. Over time, these small, daily disciplines break the chains of the past and create a new future. The power of consistency is the power to transform your life, one thought, one choice, one day at a time. Shaping your identity through thought is one of the most transformative truths you can ever embrace. The way you think about yourself creates the foundation for how you live, what you choose, and who you become. Thoughts are not harmless whispers in the mind. They are powerful architects that design your sense of identity. If you think of yourself as weak, you will act weak. If you think of yourself as strong, you will carry yourself with confidence. The inner image you hold shapes the outer reality you experience. As your thinking changes, your choices change, and as your choices change, your destiny inevitably shifts. Many people remain stuck, not because they lack talent, resources, or opportunity, but because they are imprisoned by limiting thoughts about themselves. A person who believes they are unworthy will sabotage opportunities, reject love, and shrink back from growth. Another who believes they are capable and worthy will seize opportunities, nurture relationships, and step into challenges with boldness. The circumstances may be the same, but the outcomes differ because the inner thinking shaped two different identities. The battle is not around them, but within them. Your thoughts create the script for your life. Repeating, "I am a failure," eventually convinces you to quit before you even start. Repeating, "I am growing and learning," convinces you to persevere, even through setbacks. The thought does not stay a thought. It becomes a choice, and that choice becomes a pattern, and the pattern becomes your story. If you want to change your story, you must begin with the words you allow to live in your mind. This is why identity cannot be borrowed or built from external labels. The world may call you successful, but if you believe you are inadequate, you will still live small. The world may call you average, but if you believe you are created for greatness, you will continue to grow until your reality aligns with your vision. Identity flows from the inside out. Thoughts shape self-perception, self-perception guides action, and action creates destiny. Changing your thinking reshapes your choices in very practical ways. If you believe you are disciplined, you will choose habits that align with discipline. Waking early, working with focus, rejecting distractions. If you believe you are undisciplined, you will choose habits that confirm that belief. Procrastination, inconsistency, and wasted time. Belief is powerful because it looks for evidence to prove itself right. If you think negatively about yourself, you unconsciously make choices that reinforce negativity. But the moment you shift your thoughts, you begin to make new choices that align with your renewed identity. This shift in identity does not happen overnight. It requires the intentional practice of replacing old, toxic thoughts with new, empowering ones, until the new identity becomes natural. At first, it may feel like lying to yourself when you say, "I am confident, I am wise, I am capable." But repetition builds belief, and belief builds identity. Over time, you stop saying it as hope and start saying it as truth. Your thinking trains your brain to see yourself differently, and the new identity takes root. As your identity shifts, so does your destiny. Opportunities that once seemed intimidating now feel within reach. Relationships that once felt undeserved now feel natural. Goals that once seemed impossible now become achievable. The outer world responds to the inner image you carry. If your mind is filled with limitation, your future shrinks. If your mind is filled with vision, your future expands. Destiny is not something distant that happens by chance. It is the sum of the choices you make daily And those choices are born from the thoughts you believe about yourself. The truth is that you cannot live beyond the identity you have accepted in your mind. If you want to change your destiny, you must first change your thoughts. Think greater, and you will live greater. Think small, and you will live small. Every breakthrough begins with a renewed identity built on stronger thoughts. Your destiny is waiting, but it will only open to the version of you that believes it is possible. As your thinking changes, your choices will align and your destiny will shift in ways that once seemed unimaginable. The journey of removing negative thoughts and renewing the mind teaches us a simple but powerful truth. Life does not change until thinking does. Your mind is the soil, and every thought is a seed. If you plant weeds of fear, doubt, and insecurity, they will choke your potential. But if you choose to plant seeds of faith, discipline, gratitude, and courage, your life will grow into a garden of strength and clarity. Awareness is the first step, seeing the lies that have been running unchecked. Replacement is the next, filling the empty space with empowering truths. Guarding the gates ensures you protect what you have built, and consistency cements it into lasting change. In time, your very identity shifts, and with it, your destiny. The conclusion is this: victory over negativity does not come from wishing, but from daily practice. Remove, replace, guard, and repeat until your mind is aligned with the life you want to live. When you win the war in your thoughts, you will win in your actions, your relationships, your goals, and your future. Your destiny is not determined by circumstance. It is shaped in the secret place of your mind. If you master your thoughts, you master your life.